We have several examples of if statements, and the condition that the if statement checks to see whether it is true or false is typically a boolean expression. And the first example, we have a couple of boolean variables, and we are checking the variable to see if it is true. And you don't have to say workday equal true. You can just say if workday. And the implication is that if workday is true. Okay, but you don't have to code it all out. You can just say if workday or if holiday. If workday is true, do this. If holiday is true, write out the other line. Here's a little more complicated example. And we are using a greater than operator to determine if the employee has enough vacation days remaining for the requested time off. And this is a double-sided if else. So if they do have enough days, there's a set of actions that are going to be taken. And because it's more than one, they are in curly braces. And then if it's false, we have a different set of actions that are going to be executed. And again, because there is more than one statement, they are enclosed in curly braces. Okay, so basically what this program is doing, we have a constant variable called vacation days set to 30, which is a pretty good number of vacation days. And then we are prompting for the name, and they're going to type their name. We'll read it in and store it. And then we're using a little string interpolation here. We're saying hello, whatever their name is, how many vacation days have you taken? And then we read the number of days in. And because we're using console.readline, it automatically reads them in as a string. And so we have to convert it to an integer, which is what int.parse does. And then we are storing the value in a variable called days taken. We're going to calculate how many vacation days they have left by taking the value 30, which is stored in vacation days, and subtracting out the number of vacation days taken. And so that tells us how many they have left. And then we prompt how many vacation days are you requesting? And then we read that in and store it as an integer. And then we've got a couple of string variables that we are initializing to an empty string. So we have start vacation and end vacation. So instead of initializing them to, empty double quotes, it is kind of a standard convention to use string.empty. And you can see that it is nullable, okay, which means that it doesn't have to have a value in it. So down here, we have vacation remaining. We're checking to see if that is greater than the number of days off the employee wants. So if they have enough days, the remaining vacation is more than the days off, then we are approving their vacation. And then we're asking them to enter the start date, reading that in. We're asking them to enter the end date, and you can see that we're giving them the format. And because we are putting double quotes around that, we have to use the escape in here. Okay, and that will print the double quotes to the screen. And then we're going to read in the end vacation date. Otherwise, if they do not have enough vacation days left, then we're going to write a message that, we're sorry, you only have whatever number of vacation days remaining, and request is not approved. Finally, we are checking to see if the vacation remaining is greater than the days off. And if it is, we're giving them a little have a great trip message and just kind of verifying when their vacation starts and when it ends. Okay. And so that's about it. And then we've got the ending brace. And you can see that with these curly braces, this is where a lot of new coders get confused. And this opening curly brace for the namespace, that is going to be the very last closing curly brace. Okay, so those go together. Then we have our class called program. That's the opening brace, and that's the closing brace. Then we have our main method. All of this code is in main, so that's the opening. That's the closing. And then within the main method, when we have a section of code connected to our if statement, we have opening and closing curly braces there. We have them for the else, and then we have them for the other if statement. Okay, so opening and closing curly braces are entered with specific types of structures. Okay, so they're entered with namespaces, classes, methods. And then if you are using a selection structure like an if else, you can also add those braces so that C# knows you are going to execute more than one line of code. In this little example, there is an age variable that we are checking to see if the child is old enough to ride a roller coaster. So we have a constant variable called coaster age, which is 8. And then we're prompting for the name. We read that in, say, hello, how old are you? Then we read in their age. If the age is greater than or equal to the coaster age, which is 8, okay, so if it's 8 or above, then we print out you're old enough to ride. Otherwise, basically, they're kind of out of luck. That's what we tell them. Okay, and again, we have lots of braces in here, but the braces go with very specific sections of code. Okay, so the if, I did not have to have an opening and a closing here, but I put them in case I wanted to add more lines of code. The else, same thing. There's an opening and a closing, but I wouldn't have had to do that. Sometimes I put those in if I may want to go back and change and add additional lines of code. Then we've got opening and closing for main, opening and closing for the class, and the opening and closing for the namespace. So we have another example. In this example, we have a matinee variable. And if it is a matinee, then the price of the movie is discounted. Okay, otherwise, they have to enter the price. And so the variables in here were made nullable. And as we progress through the course, you will learn how to check for null values. And you can actually put in some error handling to force them to enter values so they can't enter nothing. But this particular program does have a constant variable discount price, which is $5. And so we ask about the name. We read that in. How many tickets are you purchasing? We read that in. Going to figure out what the ticket price is. So we declare it here, okay, but we haven't put a value in. And that is because we don't know if it's a matinee or not. So we've declared the variable, and then we say, is the movie a matinee? Y for yes, any key for no. And then we read in the character. If the matinee is yes, a Y for yes, then we're going to set price equal to the discount price. Otherwise, they're going to have to enter the price. Okay, and then we just simply display the output back to them.